1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on, podcast episode number 29.
Almost 30.
Almost
We've
30,
gone so
that's
far.
true. Jesus. I don't think either of us thought when we started this thing that it would actually be going on quite this long. Or that we'd enjoy making it this much.
Yeah, I knew I was going to enjoy it, but I didn't think it would, it has fulfilled all of my expectations and more.
It's filled a hole in my heart.
Sorry.
Anyway, so...
It was directed at something else, not the hole in the heart.
Okay. I'd like to think that you weren't ewing at the hole in my heart. So... I have, as I said before we started this, I have multiple topics that I want to talk about this week. Unlike many weeks before, I am actually prepared. One of them, and I do have to preface this by saying that there is some controversy surrounding this.
Controversy.
And fine, pronounce it however you want. Controversy. So, hold on. Is the enunciation in British English controversy?
I mean, that's how it's meant to be pronounced.
Well, not in the U.S. In the U.S., it's
here.
controversy. Like
I'll look it up while you.
We
ramble.
put the emphasis on a different syllable. Go back to your tea and crumpets.
We were first.
Anyway, I wanted to bring this up mainly because I watched the series recently and was like heaping so much praise on it. One of the co-stars of The Mandalorian, this woman Gina Carano, she plays like this kind of buff, like starfighter pilot who ends up kind of on the outs after the Empire takes over and then falls, and she's sort of an outlaw in The Mandalorian. It meets up with her in one episode, and they
Sorry, we're talking about the Mandalorian.
Yeah, we're talking about The Mandalorian.
Right, yeah, sorry, my head went to the other space program,
The Expanse. You're thinking of The Expanse.
Yeah.
No, we are talking about The Mandalorian, and we're talking
Okay.
about the female co-star.
I think I know where the story's going, because I've seen a lot about this on YouTube.
Yeah, and this is why I prefaced it by saying it's a bit controversial. I'm not going to get into too much of the controversy. What I want to talk about more is what the aftermath of it was. So,
Yeah.
she said something, and she pointed out a very real historical fact, and that's that... And, God, I feel like I have to talk like a baby because of YouTube, but because of the bad guys in World War II... the way that they were able to hurt so many people and was that they used propaganda to convince just normal everyday people that those people were evil, and that became their impetus and their justification for the horrible things they did.
Right. And that's what those no people were what the stormtroopers were based on.
Yeah, exactly. And so this woman, on her personal account, not related to like her professional life at all. Well, I mean, she's an actor, so I guess it's technically all related. But she just pointed out that fact and said that she was worried that people in the modern day are being dehumanized in a very similar fashion, and pointed out that comparison. People immediately got offended because I don't know. Just any time that you draw any sort of analogy to World War II, people get offended.
Yeah.
I don't want to focus too much on the offense, but long story short, not the segment, the phrase, Disney fired her.
Yeah.
Well, it's not clear whether she was fired, forced to resign, or was on her way out anyway, and this just expedited it. But one of those three things happened, and regardless of which one of those three things happened, the optics for Disney were not good, because the next, couple days, the number one trending hashtag on Twitter was cancel Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And
Well,
So people were, because she actually was, she was a character that I didn't like in season 1, but as the series went on, I grew, her character really grew on me.
Mm.
She's a surprisingly, because she's an MMA fighter that decided to become an actress, and
Oh shit.
she's surprisingly talented. Like, her fight scenes are like obviously
Done
on
in
point
person, probably.
because
Yeah.
like that's what she did professionally beforehand. But I think she almost seems like a Dwayne Johnson kind of person, where he was a football fighter, or a football player. He just went out on the field and punched football people.
Professional streaker.
So, but he was a football player, and then he went on to do like the whole professional wrestling thing, which is acting anyway. And then he went on to be an actor and was very successful. And I think that she's following a very similar vein. So again, talented person, and a character in the series that grew on me. But because of this controversy, like Disney has walked into a worrying trend that a lot of companies fall into now, and that's that they see a bunch of people on social media, all shrieking and complaining about a particular person or thing, and they immediately take the corporate response, which is, oh my god, we hear your concerns and we're going to take care of this right away. And when they do, that just pisses off more people. So it doesn't really help anything. I think responding to mobs like that really doesn't ever help anything. But
I mean, it's good to listen to your fan base, but there are some things that you should not listen to your fan base for. Like, if it's creative design tips, like the Sonic movie, everyone was like, dude, that looks absolutely awful. And then they made it better. Brilliant.
And the thing is, I actually saw that movie over the Christmas break with my parents, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, I still need to watch it. Maybe that needs to be a movie night at some point.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah, firing someone from their job when no one on the outside, no one in the public view will have the full story, because they don't know about the conversations that go on within the company.
And that's why I kind of prefaced it with, like, it's not clear whether she was fired, whether she was kind of pressured into resigning, or whether she was on her way out anyway, and this just all culminated. But, yeah, go on.
Yeah, so they threw her overboard, basically.
Yeah, that's the way it seems.
Rather than risk it. Yeah, no, I've seen a whole bunch of videos, particularly by critics that I watch, with her face on, saying, the mob got their way and Disney are horrible people.
Well,
but I haven't actually watched them. I didn't know what the reason was behind it, because...
Yeah. So the reason was that analogy. She was, basically...
Giving her opinion
on like the worrying trend in the US right now, which is if you don't agree with someone, you tend to characterize them as either inhuman or as a evil person. No matter which side of the political spectrum you're on, people...
You categorize them, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You throw them into buckets, and it becomes very easy to hate them for that reason. And she was pointing out that that's a worrying trend that did also happen in World War II. So
yeah,
to a more extreme
extent.
Yeah. So that was the thing that pissed people off. Though apparently she's landed on her feet. She's gained over 300,000 new social media followers. She's got a new movie deal. Like
this exactly. Like, no publicity is bad publicity, especially when you're in this level of every media is going to be covering this because the N-word was mentioned.
So she's really capitalizing on the popularity now, and I think it really helps that she didn't really do anything wrong. Like, she stated an opinion, something that if, like, a random soccer mom had said, no one would have batted an eyelash at, but because she was famous, people got offended about it.
Yeah, and it's freedom of speech at the end of the day. Like,
yeah,
she can say whatever she wants to say. Granted, she has to accept the consequences, but I think consequences have ended up pretty well for her by the sounds of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's annoying that it happened, and I think Disney is paying the price for it now in terms of public animosity. As if, like, Disney's
faceless, like, these days.
It is, but the thing is, Disney as a corporation, they used to have a lot of goodwill. Like, Disney movies used to be, like, the highlight of my childhood, like, watching the animated Disney movies.
And they still come out with some amazing films.
They still do, but the problem is, once they took over Star Wars, like, they ran that series into the dirt.
Yeah.
And, like, not necessarily because... So the first movie, again, was good, but kind of soulless. The second movie was just absolute horseshit.
I was just never taken by it because the villains never win. Because they made it too family friendly. Like,
in the
nothing
new
bad
ones,
ever happens. Yeah.
Well,
and so, like, the whole drama suspense is just gone.
That's a good point. And that's a good point about storytelling in general. If your heroes are never challenged or threatened in any way, then what's the point? Like, you just, all right, they're going to win. And they're going to win without much effort. Like,
yeah. It's like a super basic rule of storytelling. Like, if you're playing a D&D campaign and your people never die or, like, never get wounded or anything, no one's going to enjoy it, and you're going to lose people real quickly. I know when the first player died in my campaign, everyone was so shocked that they could actually die that from that point on, they took a whole new approach to playing the game.
Well, there was... this is getting a little bit off topic here, but the D&D campaign that I'm still running for my cousins... I was thinking, like, a few weeks back that, like, they're actually doing really good. I'm not throwing enough challenges at them, so I tossed, like, a hard puzzle at them, and the last time they played, Jake nearly got eaten by a snake.
Oh shit!
So he was this close to dying.
Jake's character is not a small character. He's a big guy.
Oh yeah. He's their tank. He's their tank and their damage dealer, and he got grappled and almost eaten.
Jesus. So I did something similar. I was like, I was setting them up because they rolled like a double 1, like 2 1s in a row on a d20.
By the way, we're this is now the new topic is
sorry.
D&D. No, go on. No, tell the story. It's actually I think it'd be interesting.
So they were trying to follow some orc tracks, and there was 3 of them. 2 of them rolled a nat 1, and so they were like, these must be the tracks, and they start following the tracks of an ogre.
Oh boy!
And only half the party was there, so there's only 3 of them as opposed to the normal 5 and a NPC who they normally walk around with at the moment.
Yeah.
They get to the cave, they peek in, they're like, oh my god, there's a frickin' ogre coming at them. They killed it in like 2 turns because they got 2 nat 20s.
I mean, that's the nature of luck.
Really good rolls.
They had shit luck that led them there, and they had great luck that got them out.
So they got like a fudge ton of XP, and like they instantly completed that was meant to be the end boss of the mission, and they killed it first. And so I was like, oh shit, I really need to step up like the challenge level on this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're meant to, like, in D&D. By the way, we talking about D&D, and this is why I was like, it's all right that we kind of went off on a tangent in this conversation. To use a phrase I haven't used in a while, we're just we're 2 guys having a conversation here. Like, it's not.
We're just 2 regular guys ticking off the bingo card. Let's go.
God damn, that is a bingo square, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh my god. But yeah, so. I mean, like in the early stages of D&D, you really do want to treat your party with kid gloves. Like, nothing should be able to TPK them or total party kill right off the bat. And even if something is, they have the bad luck to have something like that happen, you should give them like 1 get out of jail free card. But once they pass like level 5, when they're in the upper levels, then you can start taking the gloves off. Once they pass level 10, fucking throw the book at them. Oh, anyway, sorry, just Look,
Yeah, that was good.
but last, just final thoughts on that. Like, I think that it's always bad when something like this happens. When it's always bad when somebody gets like fired or gets they lose a job, they lose a career, they lose something, just because they had what I mean could be just a normal opinion, even if it's a bad opinion. People should like engage with that opinion and go like, this is a stupid idea because of X, Y, and Z, or hey, you're a shitty person because of X, Y, and Z. You shouldn't be going after somebody's job.
It really is the epitome of mixing politics with your work life. Like, not the person who said it, but the people who, I was about to say own. No, I mean the employer of the person is showing how kind of neglectful they are of responsibility by letting their own views or political views or whatever affect the job. Like, she could be a really amazing actress, and because they don't like the way that she thinks outside of
work,
then they're punishing her and by logic then their own company.
Yeah. It's not a good but I mean that is an unfortunate fact of modern day life. I was chatting with Juan and Raymond last night, and while we were playing Apex, and the three of us all have different political views. Like we have a lot in common, but we also have a lot of differences. We were kind of just marveling at the fact that like in our like just with the three of us, we're actually able to debate and discuss and have sometimes very heated arguments about politics. Yeah. But it always ends with us, like one of the other of us going like, okay, I can see that point of view. Okay, I see where you're coming from. I don't necessarily agree, or I do agree, but we're at the end of the day, we're still all friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And like a lot of the first conversations you and I ever had were kind of based around that. I don't want to give any details because I don't want to enforce our political beliefs upon the podcast, but we argued about everything at the beginning,
right?
And we do still have very different views, and we'll quite often bring them up from time to time. But what we quite often do while having these debates is that we will find at the end a common ground that we both agree on, and I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and it's one of the saddest things about the the modern landscape is that fewer and fewer people not only feel comfortable, not only don't feel comfortable, but oftentimes they literally are afraid to have these kinds of debates. They become like physically unpleasant, and oftentimes, just like what happened with this woman, they'll lose their job over, again, just having an opinion. Yeah. Even if it's, and again, I say, even if it's a shitty opinion, you should have the right to express it without fear of a company or like a mob of random people on social media coming after you. I don't. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but I'm glad that I did like her in The Mandalorian. She was a character that I didn't like in the first couple episodes she was in, but as the series went on, she actually became one of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, by the sounds of it, like even if you kind of just saw her as a background character before, maybe now because of her outside of work aspect, you might actually appreciate her roles even more now in future movies, and you'll look out for her name because you'll recognize it. Exactly.
I mean, well, that's the ironic thing is this hate mob that went after her actually ended up pretty much making her career.
Yeah, I hope she's.
Yeah, no, I hope she continues to go. I hope the movie that she's going to be in goes off well, and I hope that her popularity. I hope she. Whatever her dreams and aspirations are, I hope she achieves them. Because I don't think she deserved the hate that she got, and I thought she was a pretty talented woman.
No,
So,
and I don't want the Mandalorian to like fall face first either. The Mandalorian is made up of millions of people, well, millions of people, so many people, not just the one person that decided she had to get kicked.
And that's the thing. Like, and this what didn't come from any. I don't know if it was necessarily any of the staff for the Mandalorian. I think it was from the executives in Disney that actually she got fired. But again, none of the details are actually known. This is I'm speaking when I say I think it was from the executives at Disney. This is all speculation. I need to give that that clarification. This is all speculation. All that we know for certain is that she said this. There was a mob on Twitter that came after her, and that she's no longer going to be in the series for whatever reason. I hope that the series continues to be good because I sang the praises of The Mandalorian. I think watching it was worth buying a Disney Plus subscription alone. But we'll see what happens. All right, we're kind of waffling on this one now, so let's move on. So the next topic I have is actually, it's also related to sort of movies and Disney, ironically. And that was sort of like this. I was thinking this morning that we seem to kind of be in like, because I was rewatching like an old series, and I was starting to think that we seem to be in kind of like a nostalgia culture right now, and I don't know if it's maybe just me, but I find increasingly myself watching old TV shows, watching old movies, playing older games that I enjoyed in the past, and I'll still watch and play new things, but even some of the best new games don't
match up.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like they don't match up, and I'm wondering, is it like, am I just getting old, or is this a more prominent thing? And then I actually did a little bit of Googling after I had this thought, and I mean, some of the most popular shows on like Netflix and stuff are shows like The Office, which aired in 2005, or Friends, which aired in the 90s. Like, there's I think that might be indicative that it might be a wider spread thing, and that's about as far as I took the thought. But just with that premise, I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so I when you started talking, I was thinking about like games primarily.
Yeah.
I know there was a time around the time when I was playing a lot of CS:GO and a lot of Payday 2, where there was just no good content on Steam. Like, nothing new was interesting. Like, the last interesting thing that came out kind of was like Hotline Miami 2, and even that was not as good as Hotline Miami 1.
Well, and even that was a sequel.
Yeah. And so, like, I just went back to playing old games for a very long time. And I think 2020 was actually a better year for games. I know there were a lot of bad games that came out at that time, but there was a lot of interesting mechanics, new games. But the classics will always be the classics. In the same way that when you think of 90s music, you think of all your favourite, awesome, super popular music. You don't remember all the absolute garbage that was there.
That is a very good point, and something that I think I remember this point being made to me years ago, thinking about like classic rock. Like, yeah, you think of like bands like Led Zeppelin, The Doors, like they're the Beatles, like they all stick around. But yeah, right, at the time there were tons of imitators and just garbage that were listened to and forgotten.
There were more than like 3 bands in the 80s. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why it was a topic that I was thinking about, because I do find myself going back and, like you did with the games, watching old movies, TV shows, reading old books that I've read before. And whenever I try to find something new, it's rare for me to find. That's why The Expanse was such a treat for me, because it's something very new that, like, was just, it blew me away. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I had that reaction a lot more in the past. And I find myself, and at first I'm like, maybe it's nostalgia, but so the thing that started this was this morning when I woke up and I was making breakfast, I was watching an old episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. It's a show that aired in the late 80s and finished in the early 90s. I never watched it when it was on TV. I was alive when it was airing, but I never watched it. It was a show that I never watched until 2015, actually. 2015 or 2016, I started watching it. And even then, it didn't really hook me. But once I got into it, probably 2017-ish, I blew through the whole thing on Netflix. And so that is what made me think, well, maybe it isn't just me feeling nostalgia, because I have no nostalgia for that show. I never watched Star Trek as a kid. I didn't give a crap about Star Trek. I thought it was for weird nerds. But then I watched it as an adult, and
You were a weird nerd.
and I found myself, oh my god, I am a weird nerd. But I watched it back, and even watching it now, I'm like, I'm really enjoying it. Even with new shows that I'm watching now that I think are good, I don't have that same urge to go back and watch it again. Does that make sense? That was kind of a long-winded way to come about this topic. But
and also, I find that good memories or bad memories have a kind of inflation, right?
Yeah.
So, you could remember a game being really fun, and you're like, oh man, that was like the best game I ever played. And over the years, you will only, like, more and more think it's awesome. Until it's not like the game actually is, like, after a long enough time.
Yeah.
As good as the game is, but, yeah, you kind of... So, there have been games that I've come back to after, like, I haven't played them since I was, like, 7 years old, and I've come back to playing them as a 23, 24-year-old. And I'm like, God, I'm struggling to play it.
Yeah.
Granted, my tastes have changed over the years from a 7-year-old to a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
But
when I was a 7-year-old, I could fucking clear Super Mario Bros. 1 on the NES. Now, I tried playing it on the Switch, and I'm like, wow, I don't remember sucking this bad.
Yeah, I was playing Army Men, and it's with the directional pad keys. And that alone was enough to drive me crazy. But everything took a lot longer than in my memory. In my memory, it was just the action points. Like, oh, it's the blue spy, chase them down.
Yeah.
In reality, it's like, alright, I'm coming up to a cliff, lie down, throw a grenade, try and snipe the one guy that's on top of it, because he will kill you if you walk past there.
That's an interesting thing, and plugging the first episode of Filthy Casuals that went up when we went back and we were playing the Sonic 3D Blast.
Yeah,
it's weird what we both remembered, like, because a lot of the we were forgetting a lot of the mechanics of the game,
but it came
but
back.
Both of us remembered that, like, oh, there's a secret in this level. It's in one of these walls. You have to roll up against it. Like, we remembered all these little clever things about the map. But when
I actually watched another Sonic Blast video recently, and there's a just completely basic plain-looking wall that you can break in the first level. And I was like, damn it!
I fucking knew it! Oh my god. But no, thinking about that though, there are some games like that where you go back and it's like, oh god, how was I ever good at this? Or like, why did I think it was this good? To quote the zero punctuation review of the original Deus Ex game, he says in the video, like players who are big fans of this game will be very familiar with the first hour of it, because they'll every now and again they'll get an urge to give it a replay, and then they'll start playing and go, God, I don't remember it looking quite this much like ass.
Right.
And to an extent, I can get behind that opinion, but there are other games like the KOTOR series. I've probably beat both Knights of the Old Republic games about 10 times each.
Jeez.
And they do not necessarily hold up that well these days. Like, they've got... Ooh, God, the graphics are rough. You occasionally, like, glitch into barrels. Sometimes things don't load properly and you have to go back 3 saves. Like, it's... The games are rough. But the writing in them is so good. The story is so good. And the gameplay is just fun enough to keep you going from story to story.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the primary things that sets old games apart from new games, is that back in the day we had a lot less ability to make these beautiful looking games. Games did not look beautiful back in the day.
Yeah.
So they had to put in some really good storytelling, really interesting mechanics, which I feel like has become more of a... it's fallen by the wayside.
Graphics have almost become a crutch. And
yeah.
I think the same thought applies to movies. Because I think looking back at watching, that Star Trek series that I was talking about, they had a low budget. It was the late 80s. They couldn't do a whole lot with special effects, so they had to rely on the writing, on the interesting plot lines, on like just the acting. Like, that had to shine because they weren't going to have the big budget, even what a big budget movie at the time was capable of. So their special effects weren't going to be there. And I think as a result, the show's it has a lot more like heart and intrigue. And I've watched some of the more recent Star Trek stuff, specifically like the new Star Trek movies. I've seen all of those. And while they are good, I think, just like with the graphics with video games, I think they rely too much on spectacle.
Yeah.
And they don't have enough substance.
Yeah, and I mean, we watched Aliens, sorry.
Yeah, Alien.
A couple days ago.
It's basically Alien 2, but yeah, Aliens.
Yeah, really intense film, really good film in my opinion. I love it. But the CGI, when it gets the CGI, particularly around the spaceship and the landing ship,
and they had, but it was.
It's kind of like a moment of, oh, they tried.
Oh, bless your heart.
But then they have to be like terrified in the next scene because like the cosmetics and like.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's not get too deep into that because our media segment is coming up next, so that we'll consider that a plug.
Spoiler. Yes.
Any final thoughts to wrap us up, because we are at the end of segment 1?
I don't know. Controversy. And what was the other thing we mentioned?
Nostalgia?
Hype. Controversy and hype.
Oh, yeah. Controversy and hype. Oh, man. Yeah. Just, just a message to all you out there. Just, chill.
Take a fucking chill pill.
Like, it's, even if somebody says something that you find very unpleasant, it's just words. Like, just let it pass.
Actually, don't chill. Get excited. Because excitement is always going to
That's
make
a
you
good
feel
point.
better.
Yeah, don't be negative. Be happy.
Yeah. Be happy.
Oh.
Of everything.
What's that song? Don't worry. Be happy.
Oh yeah, that was it. I got it wrong.
Fucking
I was just thinking
song.
of the jellyfish from Shark Tale.
I haven't seen Shark
Ernie
Tale.
and Bernie Man.
I have not seen Shark Tale.
Oh my god, you haven't seen Shark Tale?
Alright, I think I gave Blue an idea for a movie night.
Shit.
Alright, alright, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you everyone for listening. This is the end of segment 1 of the TMCJ podcast. If you keep listening, you will hear us again momentarily for segment 2. welcome back to the
Hello!
TMC. God damn it. I fucking knew you were going to do something. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. This is segment 2, our media segment. And now you can speak, jackass.
Yay! I was going for a high-powered entry. That's what he said.
God damn it. I was
Sorry.
taking a drink of tea. Oh my god. We have quite a bit of media to talk about this
We
time
do.
around. For one thing, we watched a movie a while back and never talked about it.
Yeah, we completely forgot last week. Or at least we think we did.
Yeah, maybe we... No.
I don't think we ever did talk about it.
I don't think we ever did talk about it. So, I mean, well, if we did talk about it, you people listening are in for a double whammy because we watched Spaceballs. It was my pick a week or so back, and I decided to go for the parody classic from the 80s. Spaceballs being a giant parody of basically 80s and sci-fi in general. So Star Wars and
Primarily Star Wars.
primarily
yeah, and there's a lot
Star
of
Wars, but
references.
there's little bits of other sci-fi in there too, like Star Trek and whatnot.
Alien and all sorts.
Also, you just quite a few, a lot of cultural references too, which some of them, like, I didn't even get the first time I watched it because there were cultural references from the 80s. There were also a few jokes that, to go back to our earlier segment, probably could not be made today without incurring the wrath of
Twitter.
yeah.
That being said, God, it was 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
It was very enjoyable. I remember it being very funny. For the most part, there were some jokes that kind of went past me.
Yeah.
And the costumes did kind of gross me out, but I don't know.
It was
It's
one of
the
those
best they
that-
had at the time, I guess.
Yeah, and it was one of those, like, it was cheesy, low-budget 80s special effects.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the special effects were meant to be bad. Like,
Yeah.
it was clearly made as a B movie, minus the attractive model.
I am your father's cousin's brother's former roommate.
Yeah. There were a lot of good jokes.
There's a few good lines in it, too.
I really liked the dark side, the Empire side of it, as it were.
The Spaceballs.
I liked everything about that. Like the costume design, the jokes, how everyone was like related on the ship.
Oh, yeah. Who's he? He's an asshole, sir. It's like, yeah, I can see that, but what's his name? No, that is his name. Gunnery Sergeant Lieutenant Asshole. Or something like that. And he's just like, how many assholes do I have on this ship? And everyone's like, yo-ho! He's like, I knew it, I'm surrounded by assholes.
God, you remember that quite clearly. Holy shit.
I've seen the movie a few times.
Yeah.
So I also tend to have like it's weird for like details like people's names or like I don't know, things like that. I tend to have a very imprecise and vague memory, but when it comes to like things that are visual, like movies, video games, at work, technical specifications for machines, I have a very, very like crystal clear memory.
Well, when relaying a visual memory, you can't really get it wrong, can you? When you're relaying words, it's very easy to trip up.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it is. But I think I've said this before, but like when I think in my head, you know, like in a movie, the trope is like when people are thinking, they're hearing words in their head. I don't. Like whenever I'm thinking to myself, it's all pictures.
Yeah.
I don't think in words. I think in pictures.
It's a shame you can't tell the difference between left and right.
That's true. But I can very reliably, when I'm outside, immediately tell you which way is north, south, east, and west.
Yeah. So much so that I remember back when we were playing PUBG, I'd purposefully say the opposite direction to make you go the right direction.
I do. I get them backwards so often. All right, let's move on. We got a lot of media, so let's move on from talking about how much of a dumbass I am to talking about our next thing. But no, in general, Spaceballs. I like. Sorry, one more thing that I found funny: the parody of the Force as the Schwartz.
Yeah.
The conflict at the end there when they make the lightsabers and they're kind of holding them by their crotch. The guy's like, "Ah, Lone Star, I see your Schwartz is as big as mine." Oh, and the fucking merchandising shop.
Yeah.
Spaceballs the lunchbox! Spaceballs the flamethrower! The kids love this one.
It reminded me of the, what was it, Life of Brian? The Monty Python, where during the song at the end, like, we've got CDs in the gift shop on the way out. Some of us got to live too, you know.
Monty Python did some really good skits.
Yeah, some groundbreaking stuff.
Actually,
but anyway, on to the... Go on.
Sorry, just on the subject of Monty Python, I know we've got a lot, but I want one more quote. There's a Monty Python's Flying Circus skit where they're making fun of like newscasters like just interviewing random people off the street to talk about whatever the relevant topic is, and so they're interviewing a guy who's clearly very posh. You know, he's got like a nice hat on. He's wearing a suit, and he's got that very high kind of posh British accent. And he just goes like, I don't even remember what they were. This was completely unrelated to the question they were asking him, but he's like, "Well, I think that we should exterminate the lower classes. I think we should kill the lower classes first by destroying their homes with bombs and rockets, and then, as they run screaming into the street, mowing them down with machine gun fire. And I know my views are not popular, but I have never been a man who courts popularity." And it's delivered with such just a deadpan like monotone that it makes me laugh every time I see it. Monty Python's great.
Anything is better with a good British accent. Bing.
Yeah. How was that one, by the way? Did I do good with that accent?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I thought you were gonna put more of a hammy spin on it.
No, I tried to make it authentic. Anyway. All right, so do you want to talk to us about Aliens, the movie we watched?
I thought we were going with Sarah Millican first.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. We did do two things this week. All right, go with that first.
Yeah. So we had a bit of a super chill movie night at one point because I think none of us were up for anything too intense.
Yeah, I was getting over a cold.
Yeah, so we watched this British comedian called Sarah Millican, and she has a very niche audience, should we say. And when I say niche, I don't mean like a small audience. I think a lot of people will find her funny, but
a lot of people equally find jokes, her not.
Yeah, all of her jokes surround a single kind of
trope.
Yeah, so it's mostly like particularly female body related jokes.
Well, there's that, but there was also just a lot of like I think a lot of her jokes, and the ones that made me laugh the most, were just around, like, normal, everyday life.
Yeah, she does... When you look at her and when you hear her speak, you think, this is a person like you or me, right?
Yeah.
They're not reveling in fancy glamour, even though they are a very famous comedian. They're not a high Hollywood name. You expect to see them in Asda kind of thing, walking around. So it's a bit more refreshing to know that you're, I don't know, it's kind of inspiring.
She has a very approachable air to her.
Yeah, she's very mumsy.
Yeah.
Even though I imagine she would rather not have kids.
Well, she says that
Based
in
on
one
her
of her jokes that
personality.
she doesn't want kids, but she does. She actually has the air of like a lovable aunt.
Yeah. But no, very, very funny jokes. None of which we can repeat on here because
Yeah, because some of them
YouTube.
are kind of rough.
Uh,
But I don't know. I found her very endearing, and I was surprised because when when new comedians, especially these days, whenever I'm watching like a new comedian, they tend to be hit or miss because people are. When I say these days, I mean people are really terrified of telling jokes that are gonna like be controversial.
yeah.
But she
The
completely
high-end
sidestepped
comedians.
that because all of her jokes are just about like life, just everyday normal people doing silly shit.
Yeah. And even then, a lot of the judgments, she's quite self-deprecating in her humour. And don't get me wrong, I don't think she's affected by it at all. I think she's one of these people, much like my friend, who are perfectly happy with the way they are, and they're happy to joke about it. And I think that's a really good thing.
Well, yeah,
And also makes other people feel more comfortable because, I mean, there's nothing super controversial coming out of her mouth.
and it comes down to like I think I've always been of the philosophy that if you can't laugh at yourself, you've got a problem. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Either there's some sort of like you've got some personal shit you got to deal with or something. But if you can't see your own flaws and go like, yeah, that's totally it. Which it's one of the reasons that I refer to myself as a fucking angry dwarf.
Mm.
I'm not like I am short, but I'm not terribly short. But I'm comfortable being short, and I know that I can lose my temper pretty easily. But I know that that's a flaw about myself, and I can make fun of it.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something very endearing about a person who is able to recognize their own obvious flaws and make fun of them. And she was very able to do that, and she's made a career out of it. I think one of her jokes was like, my agent's been trying to tell me that I should try to branch out a little bit more. So at first, he's like, oh, try acting, and I was pretty shit at it. It was just like
very matter of fact. Yeah.
but that was her style, and it was really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like so. People think that you have to, I guess, sit through to the end of any comedy. If you're not enjoying a comedy club thing, then you can walk out. It's not a freaking cool kids club meeting where they're like the doors are locked and that kind of stuff. If you don't like it, just leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that people don't. Yeah. I don't want to go back too much to what we were talking about earlier, but that's something that I just don't understand. Like, people can't just. It's like there's a mute button. If somebody's being a jackass, mute them. Like, I'm talking about online. And in real life, the equivalent of that is somebody's being a jackass, just leave. I mean, it doesn't apply to all situations, but if you're in that one, comedy club, she says something you don't like, you're welcome to go. But no, I found myself, like, very entertained. I was pleasantly surprised. I may actually go back and listen to, like, more of her stuff, because I was,
Yeah, I mean, that was the third part of a trilogy, I think it was, because me and Alicia have watched the other two, and that's why we wanted to watch the third one with you.
Yeah, it was quite good. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I was brought to tears in one of them. I think I told you the story already, but I was sat there with Alicia and her parents watching this, and some really immature joke came up, and I just started giggling like a 4-year-old.
But that's a sign of a really good
embarrassed.
comedian. If they can take people and just like. There are comedians that I'll listen to and I'll chuckle and I'll be like, oh, that was pretty good. But then there are like really good comedians where they can do that. Where I am breathless because I'm laughing so hard.
I'm trying so hard to keep a straight face, and there's like a tear rolling down my face because
Yeah.
I'm in front of two important adults in my life, and so I can't be a complete tool bag. Fortunately, they found it funny as well. It was just no one found it quite as funny as I did, and I was very embarrassed.
Well, you have a lot more self-control than I do, because
I did not. I failed terribly.
I fucking...
I just kind of buried my face in the sofa at one point.
Well, I mean, you and, well, anyone that's listened to this podcast have heard how I laugh, and it's
Oh, I love your laugh, though. It's so evil.
It's quite embarrassing to be with me in public when I find something funny.
Yeah, everyone knows. Oh man, yesterday when we were playing Jackbox, because Alicia's got quite a unique laugh as well,
Yeah.
and so I always feel so good when I do like a particularly funny joke, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if they're gonna like it, I don't know if they're gonna understand it or not, and then there's this like deep booming laugh of Kaiser, and this pixie-like laugh from Alicia.
And it's like,
It's
oh,
the funniest thing.
you struck gold.
It's like, bam, hit it. And then I start laughing because you guys are just crazy.
Oh, man. All right.
Oh,
well,
God.
We've spent quite a bit of time on that. Let's
God,
move
coffee
on to
went
the
down
other
so
movie,
bad.
which is not nearly as amusing.
Yes, Aliens was my pick for my turn. I was going to say for the week, but, you know.
Well, yeah, and considering we watched Alien the other day, this
Yeah,
being
the
sequel.
naming scheme is garbage. I hate it. So, if Alien 1 is Alien, Aliens is Alien 2.
The titling conventions, yeah, it's just whatever.
It completely changes the kind of horror that is in the first one, in my opinion. It's gone from the kind of game where you have no weapons and you can't fight back, you have to just hide and run. Switches from that to, I mean, you do have weapons and you have to use those weapons because there's like 50 times as many enemies.
Yeah, well, and
They're
the few
coming at
enemies
you
that exist,
constantly.
if they ever get close enough to you, you're fucked.
Yeah. Even if you kill them, at close range, you're still fucked because they have acid blood and it just destroys you.
Yeah. But going back to something that we discussed many podcasts ago, and I think we talked about briefly when we were talking about Alien, I can definitely see why after watching this movie, why Ripley is considered like the peak example of like how to write like strong women well in stories.
Yeah, I know we keep bringing this up, but it is...
Well, it's something that's... I bring it up more often now because it's something that is handled so poorly in modern movies. But that just might be poor writing quality in general. I'm signaling out, women unfairly, and it's just that writing in general is bad right now. But I think that regardless of her gender, Ripley is a character that is written extremely well. She has a fabulous character arc. She's very human and relatable, and she gets shit done. Like at the beginning of the movie, she's very. So I'm gonna big spoilers. I'm gonna do a quick plot synopsis. You fill in any gaps that I happen to hit. So it picks up from the last Alien movie, where Ripley has somebody finds her shuttle and they wake her back up and bring her to a hospital that's in a station floating around Earth, and she finds out that she's actually been asleep for 57 years because the ship had missed and started drifting, and it was only sheer luck that a salvage ship managed to find her.
Yep.
So while her and her cat, the cat did live, while she's recovering, or once she recovers, she goes to talk to the corporate people from the company that her ship was a part of. And after talking to them and kind of giving her account. They don't believe her. They don't believe that there was an alien. They don't believe that there was any issues. And then she finds out that they sent colonists to the planet where the alien egg was found. And they've been there for 20 years already.
Was it 20 years?
20 years, they
Yeah,
said.
it was 20 years. Yeah.
So, and they're terraforming it, and they're going to make a colony. So then she immediately goes like, oh God, families, all these people are going to be dead. And a few days later, one of the corporate people comes to her and goes like, hey, we lost track of this colony. Would you be willing to come along as a consultant with the contingent that's going there to find out what happened? And she immediately knows what happened. Like, the aliens hatch, the colonists are probably dead, and she's still traumatized and having nightmares about all this shit, so she does not want to go. But after, like, another night of having nightmares, she decides, no, I have to go. And so she calls the guy up and reluctantly agrees to go on the expedition as a consultant, staying back. The military people are the ones going in. And it's very clear throughout these early scenes that she's still deeply traumatized by what happened.
Oh yeah, that scene at the beginning where it's it doesn't tell you that it's a nightmare, but when she's like, "Kill me," basically. Yeah, that's very emotional.
It is, and they do a very good job bringing that across throughout the early parts of the movie. But this is the point, like when shit hits the fan, and they find out all the colonists have disappeared. They find them, and they find them in a nest of these aliens, and they've been used to breed more aliens. Most of them are dead, and the ones that
also
aren't
they find
dead,
a living colonist.
Sorry? What was that?
First off, they find the living colonist.
Oh, that's true. They do find a little girl who serves the role of the cat in this movie.
Yeah, that's about it.
she kind of hints at what happened there, and this also gives Ripley another very humanizing moment, because she's not just like, because she comes off very cold and robotic at times, but that's just because she's a very,
when she's in work mode kind of thing.
Yeah, she has a very clear work mode, but it showed a very human side of her as she sort of like, this little girl who has also been deeply traumatized. She has this moment of almost coming to terms with her own trauma by taking care of this little girl.
Yeah, I mean, if you consider the fact that Ripley in the first film was absolutely like, her mind was devastated by the fact that one alien killed 5 people.
Yeah.
Now we have a little girl who's had her family and like 50 other odd members that she probably knew eaten, and then she's been alone on the space station, on the
planet,
moon base, whatever the fuck it's called, for, doesn't specify how long, living in a garbage dump.
Yeah. Well, it's the it led to quite a few funny one-liners like that attitude, or that I found. Well, the first one being, to reinforce what you said, there's a scene early on in the movie when they're just about to land on the planet, and Ripley is, taking nervous drags on a cigarette while she's asked to brief the Marines on what she saw. And she's clearly, shaky and traumatized, and she gets most of it out about how, like, this alien has the acid blood and it killed these people and how it got on the ship in the first place. And one of the Marines, she gives like a cheesy one-liner like, "Oh, you just need to point me in the direction, I'll shoot it," or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they do a few jokes, and then Ripley like stabilizes herself and just goes, "Are you done? Because one of these things killed my entire fucking crew in less than 24 hours." And it was just like, holy shit, there's like the badass that, like, because clearly this is what I mean about good writing. They managed to take a character, and without anything overt, they managed to show her as somebody who is capable and competent, cool under pressure, but also deeply affected when bad things happen to them. And then at the top of it, also is capable of like genuine human compassion and kindness.
Yeah.
Like there's so much nuance to it, and I can see why she's held up as a shining example of like a really good protagonist.
And I think the
Sorry, one last. Let's hold on to that
Go.
thought. The other one-liner that made me laugh was later in the movie with the little girl. They're talking about how they have to survive for 7 days or something like that, and that one of the Marines starts panicking, and Ripley is like, "Keep it together. Like, you're supposed to be highly trained. This little girl survived on her own with no weapons for longer than that." And it was like, but she, again, the cool under pressure thing. Anyway, go on. What was your thought?
I was gonna say the Marine that survived.
Yeah.
He also really liked his character, and he was a lot like Ripley in many ways. Go on.
Well, yeah, because he was a low-ranking guy, and when his higher-ups either got injured or killed, command fell to him. And there's this really cool moment where the corporate guy is urging them to, not to wipe the aliens out, but to try and keep the facility and not destroy everything. And Ripley's like, no, nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. And then she reminds the corporate guy that, the military guy's in charge, and the military guy the corporate guy then appeals to him, the guy you're talking about, Hicks or Higgs, I think.
I think Higgs was the coward, but I could be wrong.
I think it's Hicks. No, I think the coward was somebody different. The game over, man.
Yeah.
But Hicks. So I think it was Hicks, but the guy who ends up in charge, he looks at the corporate guy and goes like, "You're right, I am in charge. And you know what? I think we should go up, evacuate, and nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure." He literally repeats Ripley's line word for word, and then just gives her like a nod. Like, there's this kind of mutual understanding that's kind of formed at that point. And this was after a fairly harrowing escape that happened.
Also, whilst it's not at all... So, between that character and Ripley, there's no... I don't think they even hug at any point, right?
Yeah, there's no...
But you can feel a very real chemistry.
Yeah, that's something that I think is also... that sets this apart. There's never a need for any of the characters to get into a kind of, relationship, right?
No.
Like, a relationship, when I say relationship, I mean a sexual relationship.
Yeah.
Or an affectionate
they don't kiss
relationship.
or anything, but by the end you're like, that is one hell of a power couple.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it's never anything overt. Like, throughout the movie, those two characters, they definitely form a bond, but it's more like a camaraderie bond than anything else. Like, they don't fall into the trap of, we have a male character and a female character. Kiss!
Yeah.
It's that they're really just, she's a normal person who's been thrust into extraordinary circumstances, and he's a run-of-the-mill soldier who's just, come into command, and they gain this level of mutual respect for each other throughout the movie. And I think that's brilliant.
Slight spoilers for you, Kaiser.
Yeah.
I think they do actually end up getting married.
Do they? Well, I mean, but that's fine. If that's
it
further plot
and
development, but they
don't
don't feel the need to shoehorn it into this movie.
Absolutely. And it kind of fits. It makes sense. As opposed to when they're less like, here's two hot people, let's make them...
Well, it's the same thing, so my grandparents, my grandfather and grandmother got married. My grandfather was a Marine, and my grandmother was a nurse. In situations like that, that sort of stuff does happen, and it develops.
Yeah,
but
it just makes sense, kind of.
They don't make it unnatural in the movie, and that was my point. And in this movie, they're not distracting themselves like that. They know that they're in a serious situation.
Sorry.
God damn it. Gesundheit.
Probably maxed the mic.
But they don't make it a focal point. It's not like, oh, God, we're all going to die in 5 hours. Let's fuck. No, it's...
Yeah.
They handle it very well, and...
If anything, with the way that the character Newt is handled, Ripley is very motherly.
She is.
I think is a fair description.
But motherly in the sense of, like a mother bear defending her cubs.
Yeah,
kind of
very protective. Like when they're in the, she goes over to like see if Newt's all right. They're under the bed. She's looking after her, and then it's like, hang on a second, something's not right. By the way, that scene is a brilliant scene in my opinion.
Oh my god,
the betrayal.
There
and
are
the realization.
There are so many moments. That scene is a perfect example. There are so many moments where they pull off brilliantly the writing technique of showing and not telling. They don't tell the audience what happened. They show them. Where's the gun go? Why is the thing overturned? How does over there? Why is the door locked? But it's all shown.
It's not a jump scare. It's a creeping horror that you're like, oh shit.
While I was asleep, somebody fucked us over. Yeah.
Yeah. God, it was good. And then, of course, the payback later when the asshole runs into a room with an alien in.
Yeah. Well, he tries to lock the rest of them out. I do want to point out something interesting about the scene just before he locks them out. When they're fighting the aliens in that room. So Ripley, like, she's just a ship, like a flight officer, right, for a civilian ship. She's not, like, familiar with army weapons or anything like that.
Not at all.
So handed a state-of-the-art, like, assault rifle. Hicks teaches her how to use it, but that's all in theory. She never actually fires it, because they have limited ammo. That scene when she first starts firing at the aliens, and I thought this was a brilliant piece of just, like, again, showing and not telling. She doesn't immediately, like, become competent with the rifle. Like, even though he's shown her how to use it, she knows how to fire it. When she fires it, she loses control, the rifle, like, goes up, the recoil, like, knocks her back into a box. Like, she's...
Yeah.
I loved how
sense.
they did that. Exactly. That's how a real person who's never handled a firearm before, like, especially like a state-of-the-art rifle, would react if they kind of knew in theory, but never... I know the first time I fired a shotgun, I bruised my shoulder because I wasn't prepared for the recoil.
Yeah.
I knew in theory, but...
Also, she wasn't, like, doing carefully aimed shots or anything. She was firing from a hip Arnie style.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not the way you want to handle they said it was a 10mm rifle. That's a lot of powder behind a... 10mm is a big-ass slug.
Yeah, I assume it was like kind of Space Marine-esque weapons where it's actually like small missiles that they're firing.
For reference, and for those that don't know, the largest caliber round measured in millimeters right now is a 9mm round. So, in most assault rifles, the highest power assault rifle round that I can think of is a 7.62, so 7.62 millimeter.
Yeah.
And that's usually things like Kalashnikovs or AK-47s, yeah. So 10mm is a fucking huge round.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically a grenade launcher at that point.
Well, they did say it did have a 30mm grenade launcher in the bottom of the thing. Of course, leave it to me to pay attention to the weapon specs.
Yeah, and oh god, it was a bit uffy how she, like, duct taped two weapons together.
But even that part, like, it was a bit cheesy, but I loved they did a lot of, like, characterization here. She didn't go in there and suddenly become a tactical genius. She was panicking and firing the flamethrower randomly just out of like panic around the corners.
Yeah, when she initially got down there, she was super, like, on edge, and she was just shooting everything that could be a thing, and that kind of set off the enemies. Yeah,
and it felt like, okay, this is what a real person would be like if they were stuck in this situation. She's panicked but determined to try and save the little girl.
I was genuinely worried. I mean, okay, so I've already seen the film before, so I don't know why I was worried. But she was firing this flamethrower off, and also looking at the sensor, and it was like, you are 3 meters from the little girl. She's firing off the flamethrower everywhere.
Yep.
I'm like, what are you doing? You're gonna burn the girl.
One thing I was worried about was when she killed the alien there, I'm like, the acid blood, it might get on the girl.
Yeah.
So there were all these like very, very tense moments in it. Even if you kind of knew what was coming, and like I could have predicted how that scene was going to go.
Yeah.
Because I figured they weren't going to kill the little girl. For reference, for again, this is huge spoilers. We've been spoiling this whole time, but the little girl gets taken in one scene by the aliens, but not killed. Because
they
what
leave
they
the
do
picture
is,
on the floating doll's head.
yeah, and so Ripley goes down to save the little girl, and honestly, when I saw the floating doll's head, I was like, "Holy shit! They actually killed the little girl!"
Right? Like, that could have... Again, it was one of those things where I can't remember the details of the movie, so I was like, wait, did she not get out alive with them?
Yeah, so it was, the movie is very it's the kind of horror that I like. Where it's very psychological, and it's very atmospheric. It's the kind of horror that actually affects me. I like horror movies that are like supernatural shit, and monsters, and like murders, and things like that. I'll watch them, but they don't get to me. Like, I don't give a crap. This was
not
a movie.
The jump scare kind.
Yeah. This was a movie that really got to me. Like, I was genuinely tense watching this movie, and that doesn't happen to me with many movies.
No. And okay, it is a horror, but it's not one that I was scared of as such. Like, yeah, I was absolutely tense, and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, which is what you want.
That's the point I was trying to make. I wasn't scared at any point, but I was tense.
They don't go much into like, it's not a visceral film. I wouldn't say.
Well, but that's the thing. Like even visceral horror, that's more just that just makes me nauseous.
Yeah, it makes me feel unwell, and so I don't want to watch the thing anymore. I want to watch a good scary film.
Yeah. So it's so psychological horror, and like this sort of like tense, and God, they do such a good job with it.
Especially with the shadows and like the silhouettes of the creature, because everyone knows what the silhouette looks like with the big spiny tail and such.
Well, and they do a very good job. The creatures are only ever shown very briefly on screen for the most part. There's a climactic scene where one of them is shown in full light. I think that kind of works
like I said,
them.
that was kind of my least favorite fight of them.
Yeah, but but with the like, for the most part, because they're always cloaked in shadow and they're only shown for a brief time, that adds to the tension. It adds to the whole like feel of everything.
Absolutely. Like, do you remember? I'm sure you remember this. Doctor Who, David Tennant, the Vashta Narada.
Yes,
that is the episode in the library in space.
The Vashta Narada. Yeah, the ones where if in the shadows they just eat you and you're down to a skeleton.
Completely invisible enemy. Like, you don't see the actual monster at any point.
And then,
but
like,
you know it's there.
Yeah, and then you've got the person who, like, they got into their suit and they die in there.
And they're controlling a person,
And then it's just, like, their voice, like...
Their last words repeated,
Yeah, repeated over and over again. That's a very...
Turn out lights.
A quick synopsis of that episode, because I know that too often we do kind of just... We both know it, so we don't talk about what we're actually talking about. But in Doctor Who, one of in the new series, in one of the older seasons, there was an episode where they go to a library. It was like a galactic library in the future, and it's completely empty. And they find another team who's there basically as archaeologists to find why the library went dark. And what it turns out is there is this tiny parasite that it basically is just like a cloud of dark things, and they consume any meat, and they hide in the shadows. They're a nocturnal predator, so they can't go into the shadows because any of the shadows might actually be these predators. So,
and it's also the first and technically last episode of River Song.
Yeah, that's true. The River Song arc was actually one that I really enjoed.
Oh, it was brilliant. I mean, it got a bit patchy at the end, but...
Yeah, near the end, you could tell that they were trying to figure out how to wrap it up.
Yeah, with the whole Nazis... Oh, shit, I said the word.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck
killing,
off, YouTube.
Killing Hotler. And her being like evil all of a sudden and stuff like that. I kind of lost interest at that point. But in the early stages and the mid stages, really good character design.
All right.
We've completely gone off topic.
We
and
have
we're way
gone
over
off
time.
topic, and we are way over, and I still have more to talk about.
We'll
We've only gone through
talk about
half
that
of the
in 3.
media.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in segment 3, I think.
Yeah. This is our fuck. We have nothing prepared this week. Segment 3. So, I think we'll get into that there. For little things, I finished the available seasons of The Expanse. There are more being filmed that aren't released yet. And I also got back to Vikings. And then there's just some random crap that I want to talk about. I assume you have similar things as well.
I've got some random game crap to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll save that for our segment 3 because we have gone on for way too long in segment 2. But yeah, I'm going to close this out there. Thank you all for listening. This has been segment 2 of the TMCJ podcast. Listen, and you will hear us again for segment 3. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on segment 3, our wild card, which this week is very wild indeed because we have absolutely nothing planned for it.
Well, I mean, compared to our normal wild card, I think this is pretty fairly tame. It's not got dinosaur fudging.
Yeah. Last week was a much more wild card.
It was, but yeah, the finale, Kaiser. You've been watching The Expanse.
Oh my god, yes.
You sound excited about it. I'm guessing it went well.
Oh my god, I was shocked, and I brought this up in an earlier segment. I was shocked, and this is something that doesn't. When I was talking about nostalgia, this is something that just modern TV shows and media has not been able to do for me in quite a while. Like, I was shocked that I was enjoying it so much, and that I enjoyed it the entire way through. Like, it didn't taper off, it didn't get weird, it just...
Well, you said it did get a little bit boring after the first couple seasons.
No, what I said was Season 4 was a deviation, and it was less interesting than the other ones. But Season 5, they get right back to it.
Oh, no, I was thinking of True Blood, sorry.
Yeah, you're thinking of True Blood, yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of the way it went, like, Season 1... fucking banger. Loved it. Season 2, amazing. Loved it. Season 3, more of the same. Season 4, they go in a different direction. They took an experiment. They went off the beaten path a little bit. Still excellent writing. Still excellent acting. Still excellent sci-fi. But,
as good as the previous?
Sorry?
As good as the previous season?
Season 4?
Was Season 4 as good as Season 3?
No.
Even though it went in a different direction. Okay.
I think that going in that new direction actually hurt them.
Okay.
But I think that they saw that and they pivoted because Season 5, right back to it. Season 5,
nice.
Excellent season. I actually liked Season 5 better than the previous seasons. Like, it was just...
Really? Is it the best season?
I think Season 5 may have been their best... I'm maybe hesitant to say that. I'm trying to think back. It's a close contest between Season 3 and Season 5. I'll say that.
Because that's very rare to have like an ending season be the best.
I know, right? That's why this show continued to shock me. Season 5, I think, it's a close contest between Season 3 and Season 5 in my mind. Which one is the best?
Right.
Both were excellent. And even then, like, if I'm ranking them, like, Season 1 and 2 are still pretty close. Season 4 is the worst, but even as the worst one, it's leagues ahead of most other sci-fi that I've seen. So
right.
It's just, yeah, I loved it. So one of the things, to get into some more meaty details, Season 4, the reason that it kind of went off the rails a little bit was because they focused on a small like interpersonal conflict on an exoplanet. So they've by season 4 they've managed to get away from Earth, and they've managed to start to look into colonizing other planets. And I won't spoil how they get away from Earth, but it happened, and it's directly related to some of the events that happen in season 3.
Yeah.
So they managed to get to this exoplanet, and immediately tensions flare up between like an Earth corporation that's been sent there and given legal rights to colonize the place, and a bunch of people who live out in the belters, as they're called, people from the asteroid belt, who have essentially gone there and made a homestead already. And so there's a conflict that happens between these two groups, and the main characters are sent there by one of the key political operatives. I think I've mentioned her before. Her name is Christian Absarala, and she is one of the best characters, I think, in this entire series. She's such a fucking, like, badass. But not, like, an action hero badass. She is a political powerhouse. And
she's a diplomat.
She's a diplomat on steroids. Like, she is a shrewd and clever political operative, and the actress who plays her does an outstanding job. But she sends the main characters there kind of as an independent contractor to try and resolve the situation. And, shit gets all kinds of fucked up on the planet, and the conflict escalates, and there's a big crescendo at the end of the season. But most of the story, there's little bits where they talk about what's happening back in the solar system and back between Earth and Mars and that politics and how that's evolving. But the focus is on that exoplanet and that core group of individuals there, which, while interesting, I think it loses something that really appealed to me about the rest of the series, and that was seeing the complex, like, complex and well-developed future politics alongside the interesting character drama.
Yeah, okay. Well, I hate to bring it up for a third segment in a row, but did this planet have any xenomorphs on it? Because that's the first thing I thought of when you brought it up.
It has alien technology, but it does not have aliens.
Oh.
So really, the issue with the planet, and they make a point of this in the series. This is a bit of a spoiler, but not much of one. Is that they have scientists with them, and the scientists discover that the planet's biosphere has essentially been reset in the last like billion years. So the planet is like a few billion years old, but it looks like all life on the planet was wiped out at one point and then started to regrow again. So it's like a primordial ooze kind of environment where you've just got like bacteria and fungus and moss and no complex life forms.
I see.
The problems that are caused on the planet are caused by the alien technology that's still there, that's accidentally reactivated.
Right, and what kind of problems does come up?
Complete destruction of shuttles sent to rescue them, earthquakes, typhoons, terraforming robots that go amok and nearly destroy a town, like... pretty catastrophic ones.
Okay.
Like, apocalyptic level stuff. And
so, when you say it blew up, like, the rescue ships, right? Would you compare that to, like... You've played that water game, haven't you?
Water game?
Mass loved it.
Raft?
No, the one where you go under the water and you have,
we
like,
need to go
basin.
deeper?
No. Oh my god, how have I forgotten this game?
Subnautica?
Subnautica. When, sorry, I just maxed. You played to the point where, like, the shuttle gets shot out of the sky, right?
No, I didn't.
Oh, Okay. Well, sorry.
It's fine. I don't mind spoilers for that. I'm eventually going to go back to that game, but I'm not now. Underwater
So
shit
you
creeps
come
me out.
across a big monolithic-esque building. It's like black and with green data lines all over it. And a ship is coming to save you. And this is a big spoiler. Do you want me to just stop talking?
No, go ahead. Spoil it for me.
Okay.
Maybe it'll get me interested enough to go back and play the game.
Yeah, well, it's immediately before a big reveal as to a whole bunch of things. But yes, this massive monolithic building, suddenly you can see the ship coming to rescue you, and this massive building starts moving and changing, and this giant fucking, like, Gauss cannon rises out of it and blows the rescue ship out of the sky.
It's not that explicit. But yes, that is what happens. There's a giant monolithic building, it's alien technology that gets reactivated, and it's implied that on one of the moons there's something that will actually fire down at the planet. And it essentially erects a barricade around the planet, and so when the shuttle crosses that barricade, it just gets disintegrated by something on one of the moons.
Right, it's like a barrier thing, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so the aliens are very high-tech compared to
exactly.
the humans.
They're like... It goes back to that. What's the phrase? I don't remember what this quote is from exactly. It was from either a scientist or a philosopher. The quote is, "Any sufficiently advanced alien technology will appear as magic." So, like, for instance, if we went back to the medieval times and showed them a smartphone, it would be magic. We'd have a magic tablet in our hands that has changing pictures and shapes and produces light. And so if we were to go, like, take someone from our era and go far into the future where we have future technology, then looked at their technology, it would appear almost as magic to us. Yeah. Because it's so far beyond our current understanding. So the show does a very good job of doing... A lot of the times in sci-fi, when a human civilization is coming into contact with something far more advanced than them, they don't do a very good job of, like, making them really feel alien. Like...
Yeah, I mean, in Star Trek, they seem to just bang them all, don't they?
I mean, you're thinking of Kirk, but yeah. I'm thinking of, like, Stargate SG-1 and stuff. It's all technology that, while highly advanced, people are able to comprehend it. Like, even the audience, like, it's dumbed down enough that you can sort of understand it. But with this one, the alien technology is so far advanced, and the show does a good job of portraying it as so far advanced that you can't even begin to speculate how they're doing half of the things that they're doing. But it is very clearly technological. They sort of imply how things could be getting done, but it's implied in the sense that it's not the lazy sense, like the technology works in mysterious ways. It's more like the way they're describing it is the limits of the human characters in the story's ability to understand how it is.
Yeah, there are aspects of it, like maybe even small aspects, like a single concept that we can't understand is enough to make an entire invention obsolete to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Like being able to draw energy from just the air. Like,
right.
That singular thing would make it impossible for us to recreate that thing.
Yeah, exactly. If we did not know how that draw happened, or, you know. Yeah, so it's a very... It again speaks to something that I have said repeatedly every single time I've talked about this show. The writing is brilliant. The writing is absolutely brilliant. And, like, they don't fall into the traps of having characters do random things just to make the plot move forward. Like, every single piece of, like, the plot is logical and consistent, and it all works together like just a beautifully well-oiled machine, and it's a joy to watch. If you like sci-fi, specifically if you like hard sci-fi, and you like character drama, and you like if you just like good stories, watch this show. It's so... I cannot sing its praises enough. Season 6 is supposed to be the finale for this arc, but they're talking about doing more extended universe stuff. But Season 6 is supposed to be the end. Season 6 comes out later this year, and I cannot
Probably only in America, knowing what it's like.
Well, it's an Amazon Prime original, so it should come out everywhere that Amazon is.
Okay.
This isn't a BBC thing. They're not going to hold on to it.
Okay. Doubt.
They'll
find a way to screw us.
Alright, yeah, but that's it. I've just cannot sing its praises enough. Loved the show so far. I cannot wait. This is the first thing in a long... This is the first TV show in a long time that I literally cannot wait until they come out with the next season.
Yeah. Well, I'll appreciate the time when you're... While there isn't an episode of that for you to watch, that I'll be able to see you a bit more.
I did kind of vanish for a couple weeks while I was watching that.
Happens. Moving along. We have been playing a raft of new games this last week.
Mm-hmm. Some of them will show up on the YouTube channel.
Indeed. Well, that's one of them I was going to talk about. I didn't actually remember it before we started this episode, but we have gotten kind of back into Minecraft. Briefly. We got our own little server, and it's pretty much just the two of us on there at the moment. I think... Did someone else drop on... Did Jake drop on briefly or not?
He dropped into the Discord channel, but he didn't actually join the server. I'm not sure if he had the what is it?
The IP?
Yeah, I don't think he had the IP for the server. I may have to send that to him, or check with him.
Yeah, I don't actually remember him being on the server.
Yeah, I don't think he ever did actually end up joining.
Huh. I've also been like, Alicia, do you want to join? But she doesn't have Minecraft, so...
I'm still remembering back. So I've been playing Minecraft since I was in college, and back then it was like pre-alpha. You could get it for free. Just because they were looking for people to test it. So I've had Minecraft since Minecraft existed.
Yeah, I used to play it when I was very, 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 very young, and basically the extent of it was make a cool base, make a water slide, and try and kill... Actually, no, the Ender Dragon wasn't around then.
That was something patched. Before we go too far into talking about Minecraft, I feel like for those that don't know anything about it, I should explain.
Everyone knows what Minecraft is, mate.
Well, I don't know. There's a few boomers that listen to this. So Minecraft is a PC game where you are essentially put into a very, very pixelated rendition of the world, and it's essentially the world is made up of these just blocks.
The world before it was inhabited.
Yeah. And so you can go on, you can mine blocks. There's blocks of dirt, blocks of stone, blocks of iron that you can then smelt into iron bricks, and you can make armor and tools and swords and things. And it's essentially just a fully open door. You can do what you want. Like, you can walk in and all you can do is go off and kill monsters and gather bits to make potions. You can dig a hole into the center of the earth and find rare gems. You can build yourself a nice country home and raise cows and horses.
You can make a pet shop.
You can do that too. And so we have a server running where previously quite a few of our friends were all playing, and there's still like all the houses and stuff there. Quite a fun game. But it's something that you definitely need to give yourself a purpose in. It's not something that... It's not a game that tells you what to do. It's a game that goes like, here's a world. Do what you want.
Oh, something you're not aware of just yet, but I was in my hole the other day. My Minecraft hole.
Yeah, he dug like a 10-story pit into the earth.
Yeah, I'm making like a quarry. It doesn't sound very nice when someone says, "Oh, I'm making a quarry," because I mean, quarry's not generally that glamorous. But hopefully by the end it'll look really pretty because I have plans for it.
Meanwhile, I'm making a cabin and a horse ranch.
And as I dig down, there was like a a series of like bats have spawned, and the bats have really happy faces. There was a new addition to the pit crew, as I'm calling them, yesterday. There's a little baby slime.
Oh my god!
And he follows me around. He can't hurt me. He just has like a little happy face, and he blobs around behind me while I mine.
So this is maybe a little fucked up, but if you ever find like adult slimes, we need slime to make sticky pistons.
Yeah, no, we do. But it wasn't an adult one; it was a baby one. And Alicia was watching, so I was not about to kill it.
Yeah. But yeah, I have been looking for again materials in the game. Some materials are rarer than others. Slime being one of them, because slime can be used to make pistons that stick to things, which are used to make different. You can make complex machinery in the game too, using redstone as wiring. It's a game that is simple on the surface, but with surprising depth.
Yeah. And it can be really quite challenging. Like, without having a difficulty slider, which, don't get me wrong, it does have a difficulty slider where you can choose easy, medium, hard.
Yeah.
Just changes the enemy's aggressiveness. It can be easy in that you just spend your whole time on the overworld building fun things and it looking really nice. Or you can go to, like, the Nether or the End, where a lot more tough enemies, a lot higher chance to die, but you get a lot more rare and interesting loot.
And for reference, the Nether essentially just being hell.
But, like, to show that we kind of you can play it any way you want, we've had that server up for like we've been playing on that server for months.
Yeah,
and
I think
like, total and
to have something to do during the quarantine, I made that server back in March or April, probably April or May actually, and we played it pretty actively for a while, and then it kind of was left. But the server still exists.
But I was just saying that like we've barely gone to the Nether, and we have not at all gone towards the end.
Oh God, no! And meanwhile,
like, we could have done that day one, but
I've made like a tiny little network of minecart tracks that I essentially an automated taxi service between my areas. I've built a villa on top of a mountain. I'm now building a horse ranch. I've got a strip mine that goes deep down into the earth where I found quite a bit of diamond.
Yep, I got a very fancy house on a hill not too far away with a little port next to it.
I may or may not have defaced your bedroom.
Yes, you put a very rude sign above my bed. And then I kind of moved on to another project. And everyone's got kind of these weird little projects all about the server. It just gives it some character.
That's something that's very fun about the game. When the game really does take on a new depth when you have a few people playing in it. Yeah. Because you start to see all these, like, you log in and you're working on your project and you go like, oh, let's see what everyone else is doing. And it's like, holy shit, this guy made a garden. Holy shit, this guy made a giant flaming penis.
Yeah. I knew where you'd go with that and I was going to cut you off.
But there's there's quite a few interesting things, and when you do populate the server with a lot of different people, they do tend to like surprise you. You see a creative side to your friends too that sometimes you don't always see.
Some of Kevin's builds were really quite impressive. Like, as you know, his like little peace garden thing.
Oh yeah, he has
with
like
the hedges
this beautiful
and stuff.
Zen
really
garden
nice
thing going on. Yeah.
Also, he's got like a multi-story car park, but where you think of the different floors, it's all like farmland. So it's like a multi-story. Like on the bottom level, there's wheat, and then there's potatoes, and then there's carrots on top.
Well, and then you've got like Duncan's house, which is it's very minimalist, but when you actually go through it, it's like every inch of it like serves a purpose.
Yeah.
It looks good. From
nice. Yeah.
From a utilitarian perspective, like it's like a perfect house.
It's a studio.
Yeah.
It's all one room. But I thought you were going to say Scott's house, and I was like, ooh,
well, yeah,
that's
Scott's
very
house
minimal.
Is literally just... It's just 4 stone walls and a hole in the ground.
Is it even stone? I thought it was dirt.
No, I think he used just whatever he had in his inventory.
With
But
a large
again, going back to
inflamed phallus
my
out
earlier
front.
metaphor, Scott being the person who just goes off and adventures all the time. He's not really
Yeah,
concerned.
he likes digging.
Yeah, his base is just a place for him to drop off what he finds when he's out adventuring.
Oh, of course Jake has a base on the server. He's got the parrot thing
That's
in the jungle.
true, he does! Oh my god, you're right. Yeah, Jake made an underground base in the jungle.
I mean, sorry, a super secret thing that we don't know about. Yeah. And,
It's a bit of a
God,
pilgrimage to get there, but yeah.
It really is. Christ. Like, it's bad enough getting to Scott's, but getting to Jake's is even further.
It really is.
Mind you, we did build our bases quite close to spawn, and everyone else went off.
Well,
So
I
I
mean-
feel like that's their fault.
Well, to be fair, like it's my server. I wanted to build my base near the spawn. There's a reason that my villa like overlooks the cliff face that sees the spawn.
Yeah, you really need a better way of getting down from your base, though, because the number of times I have to risk my life just trying to leave your base. It's ridiculous. But anyway,
Well,
moving on to the next.
There's a minecart. All right, fine. Yeah, we have dwelled on this for quite a bit. Next.
The next game I was going to say that I've been playing recently is a game called Rogue Legacy 2. Now, the first original Rogue Legacy was on the PS3. Really good game. Randomly generated dungeons, very nice pixely art style, and
it's
it was
it's a
one that
2D kind of side-scrolling thing, right?
yeah,
Okay.
much like Hades. It has, as we were discussing like on a previous day, it's the kind of game where you could jump on it and play for 5 minutes and be done. But you play it for 5 minutes and then you're like, just another 5 minutes, and you end up playing it for hours. Now, like I said, Rogue Legacy 2 has come out. It's still not in full release, so there are aspects of it that haven't been finished yet. But they've changed it from a pixel animation game to a cartoony kind of vector graphic style, and I gotta say I do prefer the pixely. Also, before the randomly generated rooms, they're split up into 4 segments, right? There was the starting area, the second segment, the third, and the fourth. Second segment was if you went far enough east, third was north, fourth was west. If you weren't prepared for the segments, chances are you would die, unless you're like an incredibly talented speedrunner.
Yeah.
And they all have bosses and that kind of thing. This game, you go in and the first segment's there, and granted I haven't defeated the first boss yet, so I don't know what will happen after that, but if you go far enough east, it doesn't take you to the second land, it takes you to one like particular room, which is challenging, but it's not an entirely different segment, it's a single room. The same with if you go north, and if you go west, there's a work in progress room. So I really hope that they are going to add more to it, because it seems like a step down from what they did in the first game, which is not the direction it should be going. That being said, one of the reasons I love it, the mechanics of the game is that every time you die, your heir to the throne kind of thing takes their place. And the heirs have different traits, some of them are good, some of them are bad. And it really does mix the game up just in a fun little way. Like, one of the traits is vegan, right? So you can't eat any food. I mean, you can't get any HP back. But because of it's a negative trait, and it's not a negative trait in real life. I'm not saying
no. Come on,
it's
it
bad
is a
thing.
negative trait in real life.
But you
Vegetarian,
get, like,
I can understand. Vegan, I'm sorry. If you're vegan, I don't understand you.
Alicia's sister is vegan.
Okay, I don't understand her. I'm perfectly willing to say that.
Okay.
I don't understand what kind of thing drives a person to do that. Sorry, go on.
Anyway, so you get like a money bonus because of that. Another trait is pacifism, meaning you can't attack any enemies, but you get a vast bonus to any money you pick up. So if you find like treasure chests, or if you break furniture that has money in it sometimes. So it's really challenging yourself, but you get an extra bonus. Other ones are more like cosmetics. So there's like I can't remember what the scientific term for it is, but basically colorblind mode, where it's a smaller bonus, but you can only see in black and white. And weirdly enough, I actually do better when there's less color.
Yeah,
So it's a win-win for me.
It's simplified. It's like pro StarCraft players actually, no matter how good their computer was, they used to play pro StarCraft 2. They used to play with the graphics settings on the lowest setting possible. Because
so it's the basic thing for the eyes.
Yeah,
to take
exactly. They were able to They found that they were more quickly able to determine what was on the screen.
Yeah.
So you didn't have all the ground effects and particles and things. It was just very simple. Okay, this unit is here. This unit is here. This is a mineral. This is a gas vein. Yeah, this is a base. So I can see that the colorblind mode thing. It minimizes the things that your brain has to process before it reacts.
Yeah. One thing, one trait that I am kind of confused about, and obviously they changed it from the first game because I guess it was too risque, should we say. But there is a trait in the first one called gay. And it's not a bonus, you don't get more money, you don't get less money, it's completely... the description of it is simply, you're a fan of the man, if you're playing as a male character, or, likewise if you're a woman.
I don't see what's wrong with that, though. Like, did they patch it out because gay people don't exist? Like,
no, it's still in there, but they changed it. Instead of it being the trait gay, it is now the trait nature. And I don't see what the fuck nature has to do with it. But maybe it's something that I'm missing. Maybe there's an inside joke there or something I don't get.
They're probably talking about penguins. Penguins are one of the only other animals on Earth that have been observed in the wild as being gay.
Oh.
Penguins actually will like mate for life with male on male counterparts, or
Oh, that's interesting.
It's one of first of all, one thing that's interesting: penguins do mate for life. Like they're one of the other few monogamous species on the planet, and two, there are gay penguins that are gay for life. Which
amazing.
They're one of the few other animals that we've observed doing it. I'm not saying they don't exist in other animals.
Why aren't they on the LGBT flag?
I don't know.
I want a penguin on my flag.
They want they should be the mascot.
Anyway.
I'm sorry, that was venturing into maybe some spicy territory. But it's an interesting little factoid there. Take that away with you. There's gay penguins out there.
Yeah, so it's... Don't get me wrong, I've been playing the game a lot, I am enjoying it. I don't think it's as good as the first game, certainly not yet anyway. I can't wait to see what progression they add into the game, because I think it's still got a long way to go. But yeah, that's one of the things I've been playing, and I would recommend it if anyone out there wants to. I'd recommend the first one, if anyone wants to play it. Rogue Legacy, it's a controller support, so I've always played with the controller.
Sorry, just coughing there.
That's all right.
So I will, right off the bat, say that I love that mechanic of applying a debuff to get a bonus.
Yeah.
Halo did that. From Halo 2 or 3, I can't remember. They added in these skulls, and what you could do is, if you turn the skulls on, you would get a score multiplier. But
I remember that.
Depending on what the skull was, some of them made enemies throw more grenades. Some of them made enemies tougher,
explode and stuff when they die.
Yeah, some of them made them explode when they died. All these things that were meant to make the game more challenging. And you got if you were going for a score attack, you would get a score multiplier if you turned them on. There were some that made the game easier too, or some that just made them funny. And there was a zero skull multiplier, the grunt birthday party. If you got a headshot on the tiniest enemies, they would explode into confetti and go yay. So those ones apply to 0% multiplier. It wouldn't do anything to your score. But other ones did actually significant. The one that made enemies all upgraded was a 4x skull or a 4x score multiplier. But the enemies were fucking hard to kill. So I'm a fan of that because it adds replayability, because once you've mastered a game, what's there left to do but go back and try to challenge yourself by doing things that are it turns the tendency of players to go back and try and find ways to beat the game in silly ways into a game mechanic and gives them a reward for it.
Yeah.
Like going back and trying to play Halo with a Guitar Hero controller. I've done that.
There's they actually did that with Payday 2 as well. In a fairly recent for me because anyway, they did this thing called Crime Spree where you play a mission and it starts out super easy, like easy enemies, all that stuff. Every time you get to a certain waypoint with enough points, like with subsequent missions, it says, right, you've got to pick from one of these three options, and all of them are like either enemy shield will reflect projectiles, or the enemies will get tougher, or medics will keep healing after they die or something. And so there is a reason to be putting them in the game, and the further you get in there without dying, and then you cash out before you die, the more like crazy cool loot you get, like so XP, money, masks.
You're pushing yourself to your limit. Like, how far can I push this before it's like, okay, I gotta back out.
It's gambling with your time, not your money.
Oh,
so you still get the rush of like, oh shit, if I die here, I'm gonna lose a whole bunch. But at the same time, it's not money that you're losing; it's just your time.
Speaking of the GameStop thing.
Yes, the GameStop thing, the stonks.
Yeah, so it kind of petered out. Things like it was obviously something that was never gonna last. No. And like I said, I bought the stock thinking that it was going to devalue, and I never sold it. I think I have like 3 or 4 shares just as almost as a souvenir at this point. Again. Yeah. And I think I lost something like $500 on the trade so far. Yeah. It's down to $50, which is probably a fair evaluation of the company. Okay. Because it was driven up to extremely high prices during this whole thing. But before this whole thing, these other companies were driving it down to extremely low prices, and neither was correct. It should have, this based on the way the company is going, it should have been valued somewhere between like, $40 and $80. If from the, this is not me, this is like from the analysis that I've seen by people who actually are economists, that's what I've heard, is that the stock should have been valued around there, but it was pushed way down by these scummy fund managers, and then it was pushed way up by these fucking Reddit trolls. And so now it's just sitting around where it should be. It's about $50 right now. But it's just the whole saga was very interesting. But I realized we talked about that in one segment, like when it was all happening, and then never came back to it. So just a quick update. That's what the resolution was. The hedge fund that shorted the fuck out of them ended up losing something like 40% of their net worth.
Yeah, it's no surprise.
Which is, I mean, they get what they deserve. Like, I'm not unsympathetic to them, because in their mind, they were just doing their job. But I think it was a good wake-up call, because it showed them that you're taking a risk. There's always going to be the risk that some asshole's going to come in and take advantage of the fact that you're taking a risk.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, it wouldn't be a risk otherwise.
Exactly. But they were treating it sort of like they could never lose, or they could never fail. And that's a mistake. It's a mistake in business, it's a mistake in investment, it's a mistake in life. Never assume that you can't fail. Because if you do, you're going to get fucked when you fail.
Yeah. But don't always assume that, everything's going to go badly.
Well, exactly. I think both perspectives are delusional.
Yeah.
It's delusional to think that you will always fail. It's delusional to think that you will never fail.
That being said, watching you play for the king, the amount of luck you have, is kind of disheartening.
I won't deny that, and I don't know how to explain it.
I will always fail in that game, and you will always cuck me.
It's some... I do not know this. I do not know how exactly it functions, but it's the same thing when I play D&D. I roll a disproportionate amount of very high rolls whenever I try to do something stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think luck is actually a real life stat, and I have a few points in it.
Clearly. Anyway.
Yeah, I think we should probably wrap it up there. We're kind of winding down at this point, and we have been going on for quite a bit.
We have. It's been a long one again. We've been getting increasingly longer, I think.
But
There's been quite a few 40
as long as we
minutes.
have stuff to... I mean, we knew this one was going to be long because we had a lot of media to talk about. Like, we watched 2 movies this week. We missed a movie that we'd watched previously. And I finished The Expanse. And then on top of that, you wanted to talk about the games, Minecraft. We had topics, and the topics went over. This was a very packed week. So I think as long as we are providing, like, content and we're not just waffling for 2 hours, it's fine for us to go over a little bit.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And, yeah, next week is probably going to be even longer, because guess what? It's quiz week!
Oh, God. Is it my... it's my turn to quiz you, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah, because I've only ever been quizzed once.
Yeah. And the last one, I think, it was the half-year one before, and you quizzed me on the half-year.
Yeah.
So that's true. Next week it is it. So next week I will be quizzing Blue on... I don't know.
Theme?
I'll figure something. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll... it's St. Patrick's Day in March. Maybe I'll quiz you on some
Ireland.
Yeah, on Irish trivia.
Irish.
Oh, fiddly-dee.
Nice.
Is that offensive? I don't know.
Maybe. But we love you, really, Ireland.
I mean,
you have one of the sexiest accents.
I live in Massachusetts. Like, half the state's population is, like, descended from Ireland.
True.
Hell, I mean, I'm a quarter Irish.
I am not, but...
Anyway,
cool.
let's end it off there. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This is going to be the end of episode 29 of the TMCJ podcast. Yep, thank you for listening, and you'll hear us again soon.
See you next week!